everybody! Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a serious topic. It can also be a little bit uncomfortable too. I'm going to be talking about internet hate. Everyone interacts with the internet in different ways and different communities, and also the kinds of hate you might receive online are also very different, and your coping mechanisms are going to be very different too. So this is just going to be me rambling about myself and my friends, how we interacted with our various communities, and how I received internet hate and also how I dealt with it. I am obviously part of Japanese fashion communities, and I post a lot of pictures of myself online, and I'm also a foreign woman in Japan, and those are the things that mostly drew negative attention to myself, and so I'm mostly going to be talking about that. So obviously not everyone will relate to that, but I hope in some way you might find this video informative. So yeah, this video is just going to be me rambling, but I'll talk about my first instance of internet hate. Although this isn't quite the same, it's actually not exactly internet hate, but here we go. Okay, so the first time I ever did a photo shoot, I was 14, and I was using MySpace. Yeah, like I'm like 100 years old. We were using MySpace, and a mutual friend asked if I would go to a photo shoot with her because she was also 14 and she wanted to be a model. And I thought it sounded fun. I mean, I thought about modeling before, but I never really had an in, so I thought this could be a very good opportunity. Like most 14-year-olds, I was very much an unfinished art piece. I was very gangly, I wasn't very good at makeup, and I just wasn't, I looked a little bit odd, quite honestly. But anyways, I agreed to this photo shoot. I went with my friend, there was a photographer. We took a whole bunch of pictures. I was really happy with them. Obviously they weren't amazing or anything, they were just pictures of a 14-year-old kid in a park, but I was so proud of them and I posted them on my MySpace, and honestly I didn't really think that much of it apart from that. And then I went to school the next day. This is honestly like something out of an American teen movie, but when I arrived at school, someone had printed out all the pictures of me from my photo shoot, and they wrote really bad things on them and drew things all over my face and coloured me in and stuff like that, and then they stuck them all over the lockers. I was really surprised because I wasn't like popular, but I also wasn't that unpopular, so I was very confused to who would do this, and I tried to think of like what enemies I had, but I couldn't really think of any. It turns out it was actually my group of friends. I had a group of girlfriends in high school. We're actually still friends to this day. And yeah, they thought it was a good idea to print out my pictures and draw things and put them everywhere. Of course, I was crying and I went to the bathroom and I just felt awful the whole day. They kind of made fun of me and said that I was overreacting, but I mean, I was like a teenage girl and people had just made fun of me for the only time I really stepped outside of my comfort zone. And that day I really recall that feeling of just hopelessness, and I really felt I never want to take pictures ever again. Like, it was just embarrassing. Every single person I know saw those pictures. The people I thought that were my friends were drawing all over them. And I just in that moment felt really alone, and it made me never want to dress up again, and it made me definitely never want to take pictures again. And I think about that a lot, how that could have just been the end and I would have just had a regular life and not got into fashion and stuff like that. But something in me just didn't want to give up, and slowly I could somehow regain my confidence and I would eventually get into Japanese fashion. But I think about how much that roadblock could have stopped me from finding things that would eventually bring me happiness and how dangerous that was, and I'm really thankful that I decided to not give up. Honestly, I still speak to the girls who did that because I'm even 100% sure that they don't even remember this happening. It was just like a regular day for them. I'm not angry at them or anything. I mean, we were just stupid teenage girls, honestly, and I don't think they realized how much that impacted me. Possibly, maybe one day I'll bring it up with them, because honestly, even until now, it's been like 15 years later and I still haven't really confronted them about it. But until then, I don't really have any hard feelings. But every time I received hate on the internet, I would really remember this story in my head, and sometimes I would read something about myself that's like, oh, she's ugly, stupid, fat, she's not good at fashion and stuff like that. And momentarily I would think, oh, maybe they're right, maybe I should just quit. But then quickly I'm like, no, this happened to you once before, and it was just a roadblock, but it didn't stop you from doing the things that you love, and that's the most important thing. And in a way, the thing that happened to me really helped me a lot, because it really helped me to put things into perspective and realize that, yeah, stuff like that can happen, but it shouldn't make you stop doing the things that you love. And I know a lot of people say, well, if you post pictures online, of course people are going to say mean things about you. I think that's true in a sense, but I think it's also important to realize that doing that is bad, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. But also, it carries a lot less meaning than you think it will. Because even though that impacted me a lot, I'm pretty sure they completely forgot about it. And even though that impacted me a lot, I'm pretty sure that while they were writing the things, they probably just thought it was funny and kind of a bit of a joke. And they didn't really think that much about it. And this is the same with internet hate. When people are writing something bad about you, in the moment, they're probably thinking that, but as soon as they're finished writing, they completely forget about it. Like, it's completely gone. Like, no one really thinks about you that much. So when I'm talking about internet hate, I'm mostly talking about people who write anonymously on the internet. And my first experience of this was when I started to wear Lolita fashion. This I guess was about 12, 13 years ago. I started to wear Japanese fashion. Of course, particularly back then, it was really hard to buy. Like, you had to import it or you had to buy it secondhand. It was almost impossible to actually just buy it straight from stores in Japan. And it was incredibly expensive. I didn't have a whole lot of money. So of course, when I started out, my outfits were pretty bad. Like, I honest to God look back at some of the pictures and I was like, Jesus Christ, what was I thinking? But also, it was practice. Like, I used those as a stepping stone to get better. So I don't regret anything that I wore. Even some of the most ridiculous, stupid, uncoordinated things that I wore was just a stepping stone to get better. So I don't regret any of it. When you start, you're probably not going to be very good at it. And it's going to take you a while to get down your style and figure out the rules and stuff like that. And the biggest problem with Japanese fashion communities is a lot of people can be very unforgiving, and that first year that you start is honestly the hardest, because you'll be getting a lot of feedback and you'll be getting people that really want to help you, but also you'll be getting people that say really mean things. And honestly, I know so many people that just quit within their first year because they couldn't take a lot of the things that were being said to them. And I can honestly understand that, because when I first started out, some people said some really mean things to me, and I honestly just wanted to quit. Back before there were like exactly anonymous websites, there was a forum on LiveJournal, and every week someone would post a secret about you, and it was just like a picture. They would take your picture and they would write something on it, which was very similar to the experience I had in high school. So this was honestly the first time I encountered this website. Was honestly a little bit traumatic for me. Someone sent me the picture of myself, and I even forget what it was. It was just a picture of me in a dress, and they wrote something bad on it. And in that moment, I thought, wow, this community is really unsupportive. I don't want to post any more pictures of myself wearing Lolita. Like, I never want this to happen again. I just remember it physically hurt, like, that someone took the time to take a picture of me and write something on it. And I never wanted to wear Lolita again. I put my clothes in my wardrobe and I didn't look at them for like a week, and I just felt terrible, honestly. But again, I took some time, I cooled down a bit, and I realized that this is just one person out of thousands of people in the community, and they probably wrote like 10 of those secrets of different people. And it's honestly a little bit egocentric for me to be like, this person hates me and they're stalking me and stuff like that. Honestly, they wrote it probably in a second of anger or maliciously, and they posted it and then they probably forgot about it. And so slowly after that, I started to wear Lolita again and post pictures again. And honestly, after that, I didn't get hate for quite a while. Another thing is, when I looked at the website and I scrolled down, there were pictures of so many different people, mostly girls that had their picture, and I realized that most of them seemed really nice, pretty, kind. They had really nice outfits. And if these people are getting hate too, then maybe I shouldn't feel so bad about it. So my first piece of advice is, the first time that you get something like this, honestly does hurt the worst, but it's kind of like ripping off a band-aid. And the more you get them, the less you feel bad about it. Honestly, the first few years I wore Lolita, I got a few secrets about me, and after a while you kind of just stop feeling bad about it. Like, it's almost kind of funny. And I also noticed as my outfits were improving and as I was gaining more popularity, I would also get more. And I started to realize that people write these things for many reasons. I think it's kind of stupid to say, oh, they're just jealous of me. However, jealousy can be a part of it. Some people genuinely just don't like you. Some people are jealous. Some people want to get your attention. Some people just like watching from the sidelines and causing drama and stuff like that. There's lots of different reasons that people do it, but I try not to concern myself too much with thinking too much about people's motivations, because a lot of the time people don't think. And this is something I realize about myself is I've never wrote anonymous hate about anyone, but there have been times, particularly on Twitter, where I wrote a reply to someone and it was really mean, and then I look back on it later and I just feel really bad. Like, I probably shouldn't have said it like that. I definitely could have said it in a much nicer way. And I realized that in that moment I wasn't even really thinking. So sometimes when people post something really, really mean about me, maybe in that moment they weren't really thinking, or they didn't really necessarily think like that. Then I remember as I started branching out into different kinds of fashion, I started to get into gyaru fashion. And I knew that there was a website where people posted secrets about Lolitas, and I wondered if there was a similar one for gyaru. So I searched about it and I found out that there was. And then when I opened it, it was so much worse than the Lolita one. There was like death threats, there were like slurs. It was honestly awful. And that stopped me from wearing gyaru, I think, for like a year, because it honestly terrified me. The Lolita secrets I could kind of handle. They're a little bit softer. I think that website had like rules about what you could or couldn't say, and I was kind of used to it. But the gyaru one honestly scared me. It was like really harsh. So yeah, that really, really set me back. And this is another thing that I wanted to touch on. If you're someone that does do this and does write like anonymous secrets or like anonymous things about people online in your own subculture, and this happens with everything, like happens with gaming, it happens with knitting, it happens with lots of things, you are actively hindering that community, because it does stop a lot of people from participating, or it makes people not post pictures, and in that sense it really stops the community from growing. And particularly Japanese fashion, it goes through dips where a lot more people become interested in it, or some people leave, and some sub-styles do kind of fall out of favor. And I think that particularly gyaru, which I really, really love, and it has like a really die-hard community of like amazing people who are really, really into it, but also it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think because of that, a lot of people don't participate in it as much, and maybe they could grow more if perhaps there wasn't as much hate in it. But it took some time. I built up my confidence, and eventually I did dabble a little bit in gyaru, and I did actually get my first gyaru secret before I moved to Japan. And then after I moved to Japan, I still kept wearing it. And now this is my second piece of advice, and it's kind of really obvious, and it's obviously not that good of a piece of advice, but don't check them. For me, I used to check the Lolita one, and I would check the Gyaru one sometimes. And honestly, that's the worst thing you can do. Like, being caught in a habit of it can also be quite addicting. My friend said that in a way it can be like digital self-harm, because you know that there's going to be something bad about you waiting and you still do it. Like you're actively hurting yourself. And I realized that I should definitely stop checking, because I'm just hurting myself in the long run. And when I realized that I wanted to start loving myself more, I just stopped checking them completely, and I generally just become happier. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, because it's almost like a compulsion. Like, I felt it too. The need to know what someone is saying about you is very strong, particularly if you know there's like a forum where they're posting your pictures, or they're potentially sharing sensitive information about you. It's really hard to deny that compulsion to check. And at first it was really hard, and I would check it. Sometimes I would even check it like twice a day, but then slowly I built up a habit of just not. And this is something that you have to teach yourself slowly, because I would sometimes check it and then get really mad at myself and think, oh, I'm never gonna get out of the habit of not checking it. But honestly, changing your behavior and the behavior of your brain honestly takes a long time. Slowly you have to teach yourself to stop checking it. And it's embarrassing to admit that I cared so much about like what random people were saying about me online, but at first I kind of did. But then slowly when I wanted to check it, I would do something else. I would like open YouTube and watch a cat video, or I would Wikipedia something really interesting. And then eventually I just got out of the habit of even needing to check it.